In this video, I'm gonna show you the intelligent investor's road to $1 million. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Tom gave up working 9 to 5 at Ford Motor Company at the age of 43, using a combination of stock market investments and savings. Although he had no money to his name on the day he received his college diploma. At the age of 23, Tom received his degree from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. He majored in mechanical engineering, just like his father. Before even receiving his degree, he had a job at General Motors, which received praise from every member of his family. However, Tom silently questioned, "What's the big deal?" Tom had always had the impression that what he wanted out of life was different from what his peers expected. If anything, this impression was reinforced throughout the first several weeks at General Motors. Tom ran into James, his boss, who had worked for the business long enough to earn a golden watch. Tom couldn't help but think, wow, he's still at the same place, doing the same thing as he did when he was my age, as James seemed proud of his watch. James seemed to spend his days doing things that he had to do rather than things that he enjoyed. Tom noticed this since James only brought up wild boar hunting during lunch, never discussing his assembly line advancements. Tom had observed a like pattern in his father, who enjoyed hiking but could only do it once each month due to his hectic job schedule. Ironically, it appeared like producing money was too expensive. You'll see in this video the 3 steps Tom took to become financially independent. You'll find that different factors are significant at various points, but keep in mind one item right away. Tom would have told this story at the age of 57 as opposed to 43 if he hadn't been investing and had instead sought to reach his magic number of $1 million only by relying on his engineering wage. Tom gained 14 years of time, the most valuable commodity in life, by investing. You'll discover what Tom concentrated on when investing in the stock market, what he concentrated on away from the world of investing, and perhaps most significantly, what he avoided doing. The investor interest is here to provide you with the greatest advice and resources for using the stock market to become financially independent. Initially, how Tom earned $20,000 from nothing. Actually, this is the getting started phase. Many of you may have already accomplished this and more, in which case congratulations. Keep calm, though. We'll shortly reach your present location. Tom stumbled across a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon while browsing the library one day after being requested to pick up 1984 for his mother, who was confined to a quarantine facility. Yes, I stumbled literally. He didn't watch his stride while admiring a lovely red-headed salesperson, and as a result, he dropped books all over the floor. The Richest Man in Babylon's back cover stated to us Surefire Road to Happiness and Success. Oh, perhaps this is just what he needs. The book was lent to Tom. The blonde cashier continued to giggle at his fumbling. How humiliating. When you were closer to her, she was even cuter. Tom hoped to run across her once more. First, pay yourself. According to the book, Tom should pay himself 10% of his monthly income before he spends it on anything else. His boss James was obviously missing this because he didn't pay himself first. He first paid American Airlines, Night Force, and Sitka. Tom came to understand that James didn't pay himself at all the more he got to know James. There was nothing improper about that. It simply didn't seem like a solid plan for achieving financial independence. What we do with the time that is provided to us is all that is left up to us to decide. Now, at the initial phase, doing this is 100% appropriate. First, pay yourself. A good way to turn a sizable sum of money into a sizable sum of money is through the stock market. It is not perfect for enlarging a small amount of money. Nevertheless, you should treat the stock market as you would a Swedish smorgasbord at this early stage of your journey toward financial independence. Eat some eggs, a few meatballs, and perhaps some herring. You must consume a meatball in order to experience its flavor. You cannot do it through theory. Investments on the stock market are comparable. Tell someone no if they advise you invest using a simulator or some other method other than real money. However, try your best to avoid the fish that has been fermented. This lesson was hard learned by Tom. He continued reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki after finishing The Richest Man in Babylon. Even though he was upset that he didn't run into the attractive redhead at the library, he did discover that the stock market is a great place to turn savings into assets. He soon discovered himself reading speculative suggestions on numerous biotech businesses on Reddit despite having no prior financial knowledge. With significant early returns, it got off to a great start. In just 1 week, $5,000 increased to $10,000. But before long, he encountered what was to be anticipated from this strategy. The little money he had quickly lost 60% of its value. Tom's fermented fish consisted of unprofitable nanobiotic firms. On the Dunning-Kruger curve, he had just descended from the peak of Mount Dum into the Valley of Despair. Although Tom had no prior knowledge of Warren Buffett, he was aware of his most significant tenet: never lose money. Actually, he had been so fortunate to have picked up Buffett's second most crucial rule to never forget Rule 1 as well. The losses were catastrophic in terms of percentage, but manageable in terms of cash. Thanks to his salary, Tom was able to make up his losses within 2 months. At least Tom wasn't out of the game. Unlike a coworker who had bet everything on a newly invented cryptocurrency and in that had an entire can of fermented fish. But he understood that as his savings grew, the stakes would climb and mistakes would cost more and more money. Tom made the decision to become a learning machine as a result. He would display his favorite financial YouTubers on the TV during every meal at home. He always listened to his favorite podcasts while walking. Tom was emerging from the pit of despair gradually but steadily. Tom was able to go from having nothing to having $20,000 in almost exactly 2 years by saving $1,000 each month from his salary as a junior engineer at General Motors, losing $1,000 in brokerage commissions. Yep, Tom was trading a lot in the beginning, and about $2,000 from investing in unproductive nanobiotic startups. Tom can't be accused of being a terrific stock picker thus early on, so his savings were actually what got him through. These days, second stage. Tom's journey from $20,000 to $100,000. Tom's father wanted to have the conversation with him before he started his 3rd year of employment with General Motors. Not such talk, please. Your mother and I are grateful for your efforts to save money. Do you want us to provide an additional $10,000 so you might possibly purchase your own home? Making the incorrect investment choices can feel disastrous, and making the right ones can change your life. You might believe it to be a luxury and an opportunity, but you'd be mistaken. It's a trap, this. Charlie Munger would say. The first rule of compounding is to never stop it unnecessarily, but Tom was unfamiliar with him at the time.